This is a command performance. It is for John Gage and for the seminary he represents, and they wanted me to teach introductory lessons on Greek and Hebrew. Now, I've done the ones on Greek, and I've done probably somewhere around 3,000 classes on the New Testament, maybe over 3,000 classes. Every book in the New Testament is out there. I'm redoing the book of Philippians right now, and it'll be out there pretty soon. There is one on Philippians out there. It's kind of brief, short one from Greek, but this one is more intense. They wanted me to tell a little bit about my education. In this class, I'll tell you that I was saved in 1961. My grandmother had been killed in a, she was walking across the street, a drunk driver hit her and my grandfather. And that was basically my mother. Up until that point, I only could depend on her for what I needed, clothing and health-wise. And I was really shook up. The only other person I could cling to was my stepfather, Dale Remley. And my mother and him had broken up. And so I would go with him at times. And he was an atheist too, by the way. And tried to teach me to be atheist, and I made fun of religion. I had gone to church a little bit in my early life. And I went to a charismatic church. They did not preach the gospel. Simple as that. But they did give me a Bible. They gave a Bible to me. And I read the whole Bible from beginning to end. I was very troubled in reading the Bible because it was very confusing to me, and all I could see that I was condemned and I was a sinner. After my grandmother got killed, I began to attend the church more. And one morning I went down to the altar. They were talking in tongues and doing other things. They didn't pay any attention to me at all. And my ex-grandmother, my ex-step-grandmother, went down there, which was a godly woman, Mrs. Brown. And she told me what to do to ask the Lord to save my soul. And I did. And God has watched over me ever since. I got hurt in about 1970 in the oil fields, and was pretty much paralyzed. I didn't follow the Lord in every way at all during those years. I was married to a really rebellious problem, just put it that way. And felt very much alone. I had begun studying the Bible again, and I had a back operation which gave me a lot of time. I could not drive for 2 years. It was kind of experimental, a fusion of my whole lower back. But in that time I got every book that I could buy on the Bible. And I began to study extension courses from seminaries. I had a lot of Jehovah's Witness and Mormon baloney also. I didn't fall for that at all. But as I began to study the Bible, I started studying Bible analysis and then Greek and Hebrew. I wrote a letter to my stepfather, which was in prison at that time. And this was about 1970. And told him that I believed that God was going to call me to preach, because I felt that God wanted me to preach. He said, well, you better learn Greek and Hebrew because the Bible wasn't written in English. So I did. And I began to write letters to him, using and expounding on Greek and Hebrew. He always called me a dumb Indian before that. But then he began to respect me because of my knowledge and what I was learning. I took quite a few seminary courses starting from about 1969 all the way up to, I think, in 1972. And I had taken almost every extension course that was offered, plus a Greek and Hebrew. I had attained Greek and Hebrew grammars and Bibles and began to study that. I took some extension classes. People would come and get me and take me to the classes. And so I studied that. I went to the seminary from about 1972, literally. I was actually going there before, visiting it, but I went there from 72 to about 1982. Plus 2 years of extension courses, so that was 12 years of seminary altogether. I had 9 years of Greek in class, and I had 6 years of Hebrew in class. And I translated all of the New Testament by interlinear from Greek, and a fair amount of the Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus, Jeremiah, Jonah, some Ezekiel, Daniel, and I'm trying to make them available now in interlinear PDF form. And this class will be one of them also. I worked at Valley Baptist Church for 20 years as a Hebrew and Greek reading and research teacher and advanced theology, Bible in 8 ages, Bible analysis, everything you could think of, I taught it there. The Doctrines of the Bible, a book I had written. I also pastored New Hope Missionary Baptist Church 2 times. One from about 1970, early 70s to about 1982, and then again in 2000, I guess 12 or so, till about 2019. And now I'm pastor of Discover the Word Missionary Baptist Church and DTW Online. That tells you a little bit about me. Now let's go back to the Greek and Hebrew. The Greek is very much like our English. It is the father or mother of the Western languages. Greek and Hebrew are both what we call Acrophony languages. Languages that their alphabet means something. I'll tell you this in the Greek. We've already studied the Greek. Alpha, the letter alpha is like our word alpha, the capital A and the small a, both, just like English. Beta, basically the same thing. Alpha, beta, and when you say alpha, the letter, that's the sound of it. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, psi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, and omega. That's what we call acrophony. The alphabetic letters, the letters of the alphabet mean that. Now in the Hebrew language, Hebrew is much more difficult than the Greek language. Because one thing is written from the right to the left, not from left to right as all Western languages. When you go to Jerusalem, from Jerusalem onward, everything is from right to left. Now, the Hebrew alphabet is absolutely a language of acrophony. Now, acrophony, what it means is that the first letter, or here we have alpha, right over there, and beta, gamma. Let's see if I can make this little thing work. There's alpha over there. Alpha, the idea of it, now, there are 22 consonants in the Hebrew language. There are no vowels, by the way. There are no vowels in Hebrew. The vowels were invented much, much later. around 800 AD. So when you're studying biblical Hebrew, you're using vowels that were invented much later and pointing the language. When you point the language, it means you know how to pronounce it. It tells you how to pronounce it. But the Hebrews didn't have vowels. They pronounced it because they knew how to pronounce it. Now we have alpha. That word right there, that letter right there, alpha. Like I said, there's 22 consonants in the Hebrew language. We have a doggy slaney and a doggy 40 also. The doggy slaney in the middle of a word, I'll put this up here where you can see this. That's Baith. There's a doggy slaney. And there's a doggy slaney. Okay? Or it could be a doggy 40. The doggy slaney makes the word hard. Alpha, or not alpha, but aleph. Aleph, it doesn't have a doggish 40. It doesn't allow it to be in there. Aleph. And then the word baith. Now, without the doggish laney in it, it is a they. It is a aleph, baith. Baith, like a V. But when you put a doggish laney in it, it has a hard sound. When you put a doggish 40 in it, it doubles it. It doubles the letter. It would be like you have Abba. You have Aleph, and then you have a beta, and then you have a doggish 40 in the middle, and it's doubled. Abba. Okay? Now, let's go back to the Aleph again. The Aleph, the idea of the Aleph was it the head of an ox. Originally. There's an ox's head with horns on it. Okay? Now, they do have a modern cursive Hebrew, which I don't deal with at all. Zero. That's not biblical Hebrew. Okay? So I don't deal with that at all. But the idea of the Aleph was it the head of an ox, or head. Okay? Now, the Baith, the idea of that is a house. A house. That's a house. Right there. That's kind of that stands for a house. And the word Baith also means home. It also means home. Aleph means head. Abba, Alpha, Baith, or Aleph and Baith, that means father, the head of the house. Abba, the head of the house. Abba, father. Now, most Hebrew roots have 2 or 3 letters in them. 2 or 3 letters. Some have more. And this is just like an introductory. So we have Aleph now, and we have Baith. Baith means house. And then we have Gimel. Gimel has the idea of a camel. A camel. A camel. And that one can have a doggish 40 in it and make it double. And then we have the Daleth. The Daleth is like our English D. That's actually like a DH. And it means door. The Daleth means door. Door. That's Daleth right there. Again with a pointer. Daleth. That means door. Now, the idea of all of this is the first letter of these names in Hebrew start with that. Okay? Then we have Hey. The Hey is a window. And that's that one. Now, the Hey, we have a mark going horizontal and then vertical down, and down below on the other side, directly with that, we have a little space there, and down below that, we have a hay. That's hay. And a hay is like hat. Hat. Hat on now, the idea of this is a window. This is the window that you look out of the house also. And it like hay or like a hat. And then we have wow. Wow is like a W. Now, let me tell you this also, that the Hebrew language today, the modern Hebrew language, is very much influenced by the German background. Now, Germans cannot say W in their language. They can't say W. Wiedertaufer. The W turns into a V. Wiedertaufer means the Baptist, Anabaptist. Wiedertaufer, Wieder, V. But it's actually a Wa. Now the V in the modern Hebrew is like a Va. But actually in biblical Hebrew is Wa. And also, where you come into Europe, where you come up to Spain and on forward into Germany and up into that area, we have one type of pronunciation, then we have another type of pronunciation. So you're going to run into this all over. My Hebrew teachers say the modern Hebrews they speak Yiddish, not Hebrew. Now I can do it both ways, because I know that. But I do it as the Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew would. I don't mean to confuse you about this, but you're going to run into this. I've heard modern Hebrew teachers say, well, that guy speaking biblical Hebrew doesn't know Hebrew. He knows biblical Hebrew. What they're teaching is German Hebrew, because they picked up a lot of the German language. A lot of their culture was developed in Germany, in Eastern Europe. There's many Hebrew grammars, by the way. Here's a Hebrew grammar by Gesenius. That's very important. If you're going to really learn Hebrew, this is very intense grammar. It is much more than what you have on most of them. If you're ever going to learn the final tau, that is a feminine plural, you're going to get it from this book right here. You're not going to get it from these others. They just overlook it. And here is by Weingreen, Practical Hebrew Grammar, Classical Hebrew. And then the one that I have here is by Yates. The Hebrew Grammar here by Yates. Kyle M. Yates. And I've marked this book all up, all the way from one end of it to the other. Now still we're studying the Hebrew language, and it is developed with acrophony. That means the letters mean something. They have an idea, they have a figure that they mean. In Gesenius Hebrew Grammar, it says the forms of the letters originally represent the rude outlines of perceptible objects, the names of which respectively began with a consonant representing the acrophony. Thus, Yod in the earlier alphabets is the rude picture of a hand. Okay? Now, that's on page 27 in Gesenius Hebrew Grammar. I refer to that in other books because I didn't study just one Hebrew grammar. I studied everything that I could lay my hands on. Over there, I have 4 Hebrew grammars here, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more over there. And that doesn't include Zola Levitt's. Hebrew. So, and then the Hebrew lexicons and analytical lexicons, I have a mess of them over there. In my interlinear, I will tell you what page in a Hebrew grammar, whether it's see where they are. Whether it's Gesenius or Brown, Driver, and Briggs, or whoever, I'll have that down there, and what page number you look up in those. So we got up to hey, and then wow. Hey is a window. And wow, what do you think wow would be like? That's to look like an object there. Marilyn, did you ever use a scythe?
Yeah.
A reaping scythe?
Mm-hmm.
We've got one or two down there. That's like a reaping hook, is what it is. A reaping hook. A blade. The wow. And then we have Zion. Zion is this little thing there that has a vertical line with a horizontal and an angle above it. And that's like a tomahawk or a weapon of some sort. It's a weapon. Zion, and that's like in Z, like in zeal. The vowel was like W, and of course the modern one is like Vav. Zion, like in zeal, and it stands for an acrophony of weapon. And then you have the word cheth. Now cheth is this, looks just like a hay, except it's connected. The side over here, you have a horizontal line, you have a vertical line, and over here you have a vertical line, just like the hay. Now, in a lot of the Hebrew books that are printed, you can't tell the hay from the cheth. So I always tell my students, leave a space right there between that horizontal line and the vertical line on the left. This one does not have it. Okay? Cheth is like a CH sound. Now that represents a fence. That's a fence. If you put a whole bunch of these out there, you'd have a fence, like a picket fence. A CH sound. And then you have the word teth. There's a lot of T's in Hebrew. Let's put it that way. And this T, this teth here, is like toy, and I have it written where it looks like a snake. The head of the snake, and it's coiled up. Teth. And it means a snake. Okay? It means a snake. And now we come to the next Hebrew alphabet letter, is a yod. Yod. And that yod is like Y in yet, or yod. It means a hand. Like we looked in Gesenius a while ago, it's like a hand. Like a hand.
Head or hand?
Hand. Hand. Yet is the way you pronounce it. Yod and hand. And then we come to the next word is cough. A cough. A cough. That's the word right there. Now, this cough has a letter in the word and a final word. You have two different kinds. Now in English, the English language, and not one of my teachers taught me this. I learned this on my own from studying ancient old Greek grammars. You know that the Greek, the English, not the Greek language, but English grammars. You know, the English language didn't even have a dictionary. The English language was a language that was what we might call an illegitimate language. It was always gathering up momentum all the time. If you go back to Anglo-Saxon, it's a very rudimentary language, but the English language, there was a man that spent most of his life in England trying to write the English a dictionary. Spent nearly all of his life, and he didn't get it done. It was done, I think, in 1920 something, the first Oxford Dictionary of the English language. So the English language, you have to go back. But the English language originally had two S's in it. S's. S. One S looked like this. It looked like an F. And the other S was a final S that looked like an S that we use today. Now, if I had time, I'd go up there and I'd get an old English book written before 1800, and I have them. And I would show you that every S in a word looked like an F. If you look to the preamble to the Constitution, it will say, and my teachers used to say, Congress. It's Congress. Because they didn't know the difference between an S and a final S. They didn't know it existed. I studied the old grammars and the old books, and you could see the difference between the final S and the S. Now, Hebrew has that. Greek has that in one word. Since English came from Greek, basically, guess what letter that was? We have a sigma, like that, and a final sigma, like that. And that's an S. Okay? Hope I'm not boring you to death with all of this, because the study of grammar sometimes is kind of boring, but I'm trying to make it a little more lively. Yod, that's hand. Now we have the word cough that we're looking here, and that's the open hand. The cough is the open hand. That cough right there. The open hand. Now we have a final cough, and that is a horizontal line, and it's coming down like that. That's at the end of a Hebrew word. In the middle of the Hebrew word, it'll look like the hand there, and at the end of it, it'll be like that. And that means the open hand palm, the palm of the hand. Now we come to the word lamet. We have a lambda in Greek, and then we have a word lamet in Hebrew. And it's L. L. L is L, okay? And this word, what does this little funny looking thing here look like? What could it be? That'd be a whip. A whip. As you take a bullwhip in the air, like that, and you see it. Especially if you got one on a stake, and then with a whip on the end of it, you can see that whip. Lamet. And that's like an L. Then we come to the Hebrew M. That's mem. And the mem has two letters. The mem has two letters. This is the letter at the beginning, or in the middle of a word, and this is the M, and it is like a box, and I leave it open up here at the top so you can tell it from a sonic or something else. A lot of the Hebrew words, you can get really mixed up on them. It's hard to read some of the Hebrew Bibles because of the poor condition of the letters and the printing. You can't tell one from another unless you know what they are. Then we come down to the word neen, or none. That's the word N. And by the word M there, the word M is waters. That word there means waters, mayim. The word water starts with that, and it means waters. And then we come to the word N, and N has a final letter also. N looks like this. It's a vertical line. It's got a little dip up there and a little dip down there. Now, the gimel over here, the gimel, Aleph, Beth, Gamel, Gameth has a kind of a heel on it over here. A pronounced heel on that word. It looks like a name, but it has a pronounced heel on it. Now the name does not have that extension on this area right here. And make sure when you're writing your Hebrew that you can tell the Gemel from the name. The nun. Now this is the word in the beginning, like nephesh, and then here's the word at the end. If it ends with an N, that's what it looks like. It is like this. You have a little, some of them don't show that. You can't tell the final name from the final cough or the final pay if you don't start making your letters distinct. And you'll have this trouble reading them in the Greek, or not the Greek, but in the Hebrew Bibles. Now this name here, the name is like a N and net, but it means fish. The name is like a fish. The head of the fish and the body of the fish. Now we have the word samic. Samic, and I make it like this. It's a little different than what they are, because the samic looks also like the man. And you can hardly tell it from the teeth. So I make it a little different. My students, when they read my interlinears from Hebrew, they used to say, "Boy, I wish they wrote the Hebrew Bible like you write the Hebrew." Because I can tell your words one from another, but I can't tell theirs. It's very confusing. Samic is like another S. And that's like a prop. The reason why I give it the little tile here is like a teepee. It's a prop. You prop something up. Then we come to the word ayin. Ayin has the idea of eyes. Ayin. See the eyes up there? A lot of people just make the ayin look like a Y. But if you don't have eyes, little dots on the end of it, I put dots or little eyeballs because it comes from the word eye. Ayin. And basically it is silent.
What is it?
Basically it is silent.
Silent.
Silent. Then we come to the word pay. And pay has a final also. Here you have pay. And pay can be like a PH or like a strong P, like P or PH. Because you might have a doggish laney in it, which makes it a hard. Also can make it a doggish 40, make it a double. Okay? But the final one looks like the Zion. It also looks like the Qaf. But it has a longer, like an F. Like a backward F in it. It has a longer line. Make sure when you write your page, your final page, it's got this longer, not just a dot there. And that's a mouth. That's a mouth. And it's like PH in like Phillips or P in pet, whether it's got a doggish lane in it or not. And it means a mouth. See, it looks like a mouth. There's a mouth and a tongue in it. See that?
Oh, mouth.
A mouth. Then you come to the word sadhe. Sadhe. And you say sadhe with it is what you call a dental. You say sadhe because you put your sadhe because you put your tongue against your teeth. Teeth. Sadhe. And that means a fish hook. Sadhe is a fish hook.
Say that again.
Sadhe is a fish hook.
Oh, a fish hook.
Yes. Then you come to the word kof. Now the word kof and kof has a that means the back of the head. See, that's the head there. It's the person, that's the back of your head. The kof. It's like a K. And then we have the resh. Resh. Resh is a smooth. It is smooth like that. It's not sharp. It's smooth. It's rounded. You can't tell it from a final here or one there unless you smooth it out. Make it rounded on the end, that resh. And it means like in run, it means the head. Remember the kof means the back of the head. Now the resh is the head. Rosh means head. Barashith. Barashith, in. Barashith means in, Beit, page 88. Rosh, page 912. Both of them and Brown, Driver, and Briggs. And then the tau on the end of it is plural. The old Hebrew tau is plural, which tells you that on page 241 in Gesenius Hebrew grammar. You won't get that in any of the other grammars, by the way. You got to go to him. By the way, as you go to Gesenius was probably one of the most brilliant of all the Hebrew scholars. But when he was alive and doing his lexicon and his grammar work, he exposed some definitions of Hebrew that people didn't agree with. And so they tried to blacklist him, like he was some bad guy. The word Alma and Bethula. Alma, now this in Isaiah 7:14, it said, "A virgin shall conceive." Now that's a dual prophecy. First of all, it says a young woman shall conceive. The word Alma there just means a sexually mature woman. And he said that in his lexicon. And they said, "Oh no, that's Isaiah 7:14. You're doing away with the virgin birth of Christ." But they didn't see the dual prophecy of it. Now it doesn't have the word Bethula there. The word Bethula means a virgin that has been kept and watched in her father's home. And she's a verified virgin. The word Alma just means a sexually mature woman. But we know in the New Testament, when they translated it into Greek, they used the word Bethula. It doesn't mean Tabitha or Tabitha or whatever. It is Bethula. And Bethula means a virgin. The first prophecy there was fulfilled in that time. The second prophecy was when Christ was born, when Mary conceived. So let's give you a little bit of information about the grammars. For 100 years they fought him, and finally now if you look at all the lexicons, they're going to tell you one thing. Alma means a sexually mature woman, and Bethula means a virgin. Period. But in his day, he took flack because he told the truth, just the way it was. All right. Ayin, silent eyes, pay, like a P or a PH, and the word sade is like a fish hook, and it's a TS sound, and then kof, the back of the head, and it's like a Q, or kind of almost like a guttural K. Then we have resh, the head, and that's an R sound, and then we have the word sin. Now sin and shin have the same, it looks like pitchfork, okay? But one of them has got a dot over the right side, and that makes it an SH sound. That's S. It's over, actually this is on the left side here, up backwards. Sin, and then shin, over here. On the right hand side of that is shin, But there we have sin. Sin starts now. The modern Hebrew, they go backwards with these, and they count them as two different consonants, which we do. But they have a lot more consonants in the Hebrew alphabet today than what they did in biblical Hebrew. And the modern Hebrews have tried to make a big deal about the pronunciation of Hebrew. They didn't even know how to pronounce their language. They struggled with that. They laid their language down in 300 BC and then pick it up again. Some of them, like the Apostle Paul, they spoke Hebrew, but most of them thought Hebrew was a forbidden sacred language, so they wouldn't speak it, and then so they spoke Aramaic, which was akin to it. It was like a slang form of it. That's like high and low German and French. So we have this resh, and then we have sin, and that's like S-I. And by the way, this is a tooth with long roots. A tooth with long roots. A tooth with long roots. The sin, the S sound, and then the SH sound. Sin, shin. Then you have the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which is tau. And the modern Hebrews pronounce it like a theta. Theta, like theta in Hebrew, or Greek that is. Now the tau is like a box, like this again, except it has a foot over here. Don't forget to put the foot over there. Now, it can be doubled, and also it can be made hard with a doggish laney or a doggish 40. So you look at that. You have stops, you have fricatives, you have finals in Hebrew. And the stops are explosive sound that cannot last more than an instant. Fricatives are sounds that can be pronounced as long as one's breath holds on. Pe and fe. All right, like P and F. F. P is an explosive sound. Say P. P. Like pay. And then fee. P, you would say payroll, and fee would be pharaoh. And pharaoh means what? The man in the big house. Man in the big house. All right, these are just some of the little, this is just an introductory to Hebrew. That's all. Just an introductory. Now some of these are gutturals. They're stops. They're fricatives. Some of them lengthen the sound of it. All of this, but as we come into the modern vowels that were invented in 800 A.D., which we will cover in another lesson, not this one. I hope that this has helped you just a little bit. We won't go into the phonetic triangles or anything else. The patha, the comments, the holem, the kibbutz, the shigol, the sigol, the zisaret, herek, and all of these other vowels. Except you've got a little bit of introduction into Hebrew. Not much. But the first verse in the Hebrew Bible is Barashith, Bara, Elohim, Et Hashemayim, Viet Haaretz. In beginnings, in one of the beginnings, the Hebrew plural from this grammar that nobody else records, and the Hebrew plural in this grammar is on page 241. The old Hebrew plural, tau, that is feminine, Barashith, Beit, in, Rosh, head, in one of the beginnings, or in one beginnings, plural, because of the tau on the end of it. Bara, third person masculine singular, kal perfect. He had created Elohim, that's the triune God, Elohim, El-Hayim. Et Hashemayim, et, the sign of the direct object, like the Greek preposition H. Et Hashemayim, the uplifted waters, the heavens, everything in the universe. God created everything in the universe. It's done. It's done. It's finished. It's complete. Then it says, we et haaretz. We and et. We is a conjunction. Page 253, Brown, Driver, and Briggs. Et. We et Hashemayim. And we et haaretz, that is. Ha, definite article, eretz, the earth. God created the whole universe, and He placed the earth in exactly the right place that He should place it. Genesis 1 and 2, we haaretz. Bohu watohu. Hathya bohu watohu. And the earth she had become formless and void. She wasn't created that way. From the Hebrew, you know that. We haaretz, hathya. We haaretz, and the earth, she had become, third person, feminine, singular, cow perfect. She had become formless and void. And darkness was over the faces of the deep. Something happened between Genesis 1 and 1 and Genesis 1 and 2. And there you go. That's previews of coming attractions. Father, please use this little message to open people's minds, to make them hungry for your word and the languages of the Bible. Everything else is just a translation. Father, please use these messages and touch hearts with them. In Jesus' name I pray.